The tips that I've received and these documents I've received demonstrate that my opponent has no business running a prosecutor's office. She doesn't lead her attorneys, and she doesn't protect this city. Now, I'm not joking when I say that we are the only city in America where our prosecutor fights cops instead of crime. The courageous employees inside the state's attorney's office want to work with our police department. By coming forward with this information, they are asking Baltimore's voters to end our misuse of our taxpayers' resources. The emails I've distributed and the talking points I've distributed again demonstrate our top prosecutors' agenda to discredit the police and to hide from their own failures. I look forward to a day when we can chase crime and the Jessamy administration out of Charm City. Now, I also refer you to an email that I have sent personally to Mrs. Jessamy regarding coverage of this campaign that was commented on by her spokesperson, Margaret T. Burns. I see that as a waste of our prosecutorial office's money. Mrs. Jessamy must avoid conflicts such as this and the appearance of impropriety. This is just another example of Mrs. Jessamy's disastrous management practices and a lack of attention to the law. What a mess. Please help me in the fighting of cops instead of criminals. So I will save you the time of interviewing my opponent's spokesperson. Just like my last two press conferences, she'll say that these were routine responses to routine media requests and that my statements are not substantive and without merit. Just a heads up for you. But you know that this is not a routine media request and that this is meritorious. The Jessamy administration is an orchestrated campaign to discredit police and crime-fighting technology. The current administration, it would seem, is using its staff to direct its political messages rather than fight criminals. And the state's attorney's office spokesperson must stop speaking for the Jessamy campaign, especially on company time. Now, I have asked my Republican opponent today to chastise her employee for this misconduct so we can run a campaign on an ethical and level playing field. Mrs. Jessamy has got to avoid conflicts like this, and I thank you, Baltimore. The thousands of you that I have met have inspired me to run harder and to fight crime, not cops. Let's chase crime out of Charm City. Thank you.
Mr. Fogleman, what exactly should be done about all this, in your opinion?
Well, about all of this, let me direct you, first of all, to some of these emails and talking points, and then I'll answer your question. First of all, if you refer to document 1, which are talking points produced by Margaret Burns and the Public Information Office for an appearance on the Bruce Elliott Show on WBAL Radio, you'll see that their first talking point, and one would have to assume their most important point, is that there are more poll camera cases coming out and that this may be a problem to them. Statistics have showed that the cases, in fact, have increased. They have a major focus on the increased number of cases, whereas they have no focus on any other value of the cameras, and we know there are. Now, they come to the conclusion in the talking points that with the large number of cases not being violent crime, but rather quality of life offenses, the millions of dollars put towards the poll camera system may not be necessarily put to good use. That is, being a deterrent or prevention of serious crime in Baltimore. That's completely untrue, and the state's attorney's records show that the cameras are being used to prevent violence and address open-air drug markets. There is no truth to her conclusion. Now, with respect to the other emails, the state's attorney's office has taken a policy that they cannot share important information with the Baltimore City Police Department that would lead to the improvement of the camera system. For example, in that secondary email, Shantae Drake of the state's attorney's office tells the Baltimore City Police Department that she cannot break down the release without charges cases made between the cannot prove and the abated by arrest. However, in the talking points and the other emails, or the other documentation that was provided to the Brazilian show, the distinction is made. So I think it's ironic that they refuse to share information with the Baltimore Police Department, but make it available to the press to push an agenda, and that demonstrates to me conclusively that Ms. Burns has a strategy to proactively undermine the Baltimore Police Department. Now, after that, you'll see statistics on the poll camera cases from May and June of 2006, and those statistics are misleading. The summary of those statistics created by the Public Information Office says that 25 cases were null processed in the month of June. But some of those null processes, as you can see from the comments in Ms. Burns' file, were null processed in exchange for pleas in other cases. Therefore, poll camera null process cases lead to convictions in other cases and provide the state's attorney with valuable leverage. That's not explained in Ms. Burns' talking points, and it's an important fact that's being completely ignored. Now, let me make one point, and that is, there's a recent Philly News article, and I have one copy of it, and I'll be happy to supply it to the reporters here, from July 12th. And in that article, she, of course, Ms. Burns, the state's attorney's office, continues to criticize our surveillance cameras. However, her staff at the state's attorney's office played a prominent role in the visit when the mayor of Philadelphia and the police commissioner came down here to visit and talk about crime cameras. So the public comments from the SAO at that time were supportive of the camera system. So why is now Ms. Burns speaking in direct contradiction of her staff, one of which was the district court chief attorney? And why does Ms. Burns quote directly contradict that of the district attorney in Philadelphia who embraces the technology? And let me give you a quote from that Philly News article. And this upsets me because I think there are too many people in this city who have a mentality, a bigotry of low expectations. They say, it's Baltimore. There'll always be lots of crime. It's a defeatist attitude that I reject, and I believe thousands of residents of Baltimore reject. Ms. Burns is quoted as saying, "The city is too poor to support citywide camera use. The city is too violent to use a surveillance system that mainly targets quality of life crimes." That's a defeatist attitude, and that's exactly my problem with the failed leadership of the state's attorney's office.
Now, also, Ms. Fogleman, if the spokesperson shouldn't be speaking for the state's attorney's office, what should she be doing?
Well, the spokesperson for any state's attorney's office should be talking about indictments, should be speaking about convictions and prosecutions. That's their job. But apparently, they don't have any good news for us. So they've taken their staff to basically discredit the police department on a full-time basis, and that's patently improper. It's going well. These documents were provided to me by the whistleblowers who have contacted me. The telephone line was not yielding many results, perhaps because people didn't want their voices to be heard. But the email has been wonderful. There are anonymous email programs that allow me to communicate back and forth with someone without having their IP address, for example. So I think this has been borne fruit. In fact, there are other matters that have come to my attention from the tip line, some of which are bigger and need more time to develop. And I'm not going to go and make allegations against this office without extreme follow-up. And some of those allegations are very harsh indeed, but I will not discuss them until I have more information. I can also let you know that I've received tips that don't even involve the state's attorney's office, but involve possible corruption in city government. And those stories, I am not running for mayor of this city. Those stories will be handled accordingly, and I will be happy to let the press know about some of those issues if they're interested in them, obviously on a confidential basis without the naming of names. I thank you. Are there any more questions?
How do you feel about Ms. Jessamy not even campaigning? You know, you're out here all the time. You're shaking hands, making phone calls. She doesn't even campaign.
I find it a little arrogant. Let me put it this way. I am going to campaign events every single night. I see folks who are running unopposed at those events every single night, and they don't take the voters for granted. I see her taking the voters for granted. I don't know if she has other things to do after 5 o'clock, or that if it's a situation where she really doesn't want to run into the public, because I've run into the public, and they have a lot of horror stories about their interactions with the state's attorney's office. So I don't know if she's scared to talk to the people or if she's just got better things to do.